So last week I talked about the credibility gap, the reason so many organizations doing genuinely good work keep getting passed over by grants. If you missed that particular video, watch it. It's the first one in this series because today's video builds directly to it. And because naming the gap is one thing, today I want to do something different. I want to put a price on it. Institutional maturity is expensive, but there is a trap to it. It almost never sends you an invoice. You don't ever get a letter that says, we funded someone else because your financial systems looked weak. You just don't get the money. And because the cost is invisible, most organizations pay it year after year without ever realizing they're paying for it at all. So my intention with doing this video is to try to make that reason visible, try to make it more visible. The first cost is the one actually nobody ever sees because it's the money that simply never arrives. So the money didn't arrive, so you really take a minute to look at the opportunity cost of the money not actually arriving. So when a grant goes to another organization, for example, you rarely find out why the rejection. Most of the organizations or most of the funding agencies do not actually give you feedback. So you move on. You just say it wasn't ours and you move on, or you say it was a competitive round, or you just say there are many strong applications. And sometimes they give you feedback and they give you the same sentence, or the grant was competitive, there were so many strong applications, just the way you get probably when you do like a job application and you're not picked as a candidate, so you are given that polite line. And they will always tell you that we encourage you to stay in touch and play again and apply again in the next round. So you assume it was all good and all close. You assume that the next one will land and you go back to doing the work the way you are used to actually doing the work. But what you actually do not see is the conversation that happened on the funder side, because you don't have that ability to see that at that particular point. That conversation where someone looked at your financial reporting or your audit history or the structure of your last budget, for example, and quietly moved you into the too risky pile before the programs team looked at your application. So that's the first hidden cost that I wanted to highlight. Not that the grants were rejected for, but the grants you never were seriously running for without even ever knowing about it. You just put an application out there, but not known to you. The signals that you had sent before simply moved your grant application from the pool to the risky side, and nobody looked at it ever again. But you see, losing the whole grant is only the most obvious version of that non-visibility. There's a quieter cost where you never really even get to identify with it. It's where organizations, for example, look at it this way. Sometimes you don't lose the funding. You just get less of it than you should have. You've been considered, yes. You probably applied for 1.5 million USD over a period of maybe 2-3 years, but you get to get half of what you applied for. A funder who isn't fully confident in your financial systems has few options short of saying no. They can give you a smaller award than you asked for because a small amount feels like probably it's a smaller risk on their end. They can fund you for 1 year instead of 3, for example, so they can watch how you manage the money before committing further. They can actually restrict the funding tightly instead of making it unrestricted, leaving you no room to even cover the real cost of running your own organization. It's not because that was the initial intention. It's because of the signals that probably they saw in your application. So each of these ones may look to you like a win on the surface. You got funded, but if you look closer at a 1 year grant, it means that You are back in the fundraising circle almost immediately, spending leadership time, chasing renewals instead of delivering programs. A smaller award means you deliver less, which weakens the very track record you need for your next application. So, tightly restricted funding, as you know, means that your finance function stays underfunded because it doesn't allow you to actually, most of the time, plow back the real cost of your implementation, which keeps your systems weak and also it keeps you looking more risky as you get restrictions and restrictions year after year. So I don't know if at this point you see the loop. Looking small doesn't just cost you once, it quietly arranges things so that you actually stay small. And there's one signal that is particularly that funders read far more closely than most organizations actually realize. This one is if most of your income comes from one or two donors, I think what we call the donor concentration, you probably think of that as a good thing. Strong relationships, loyal funders, proof that someone believes in you. A funder actually sees something different. They see what I've been talking about, the concentration risk. And so here is how they think about it once they see that concentration risk in your books. If two donors provide 70% of your income, for example, then your entire organization is two decisions away from collapse. One funder shifts priorities, another one doesn't renew, and the program they were about to invest in disappear halfway through as a new incoming funder. So from their side, funding you starts to look like building on ground that could give away at any moment. So your greatest source of pride, those deep relationships with a couple of loyal funders, reads to new funders as fragility. Not because the relationships are bad, really, but just because the structure underneath looks a bit slim. This one is one of the clearest examples of the credibility gap in action. What looks like your strength from the inside can actually read as risk from the outside. And you will never really know because nobody tells you that your funding mix is the reason they hesitated. So let me make one of these concrete because it's easy to talk about it in the abstract. So picture two organizations. Both work in the same field. Both are led by capable, mature, and committed people. Both do work that genuinely help their communities. The first organization, for example, has a clear financial structure. Its budget maps cleanly to its accounts. Its last two audits came back clean. It can show a funder in an afternoon exactly how the last grant was spent, and its income comes from a healthy spread of sources. The second organization does equally good program work, but its reporting is assembled manually each quarter under pressure. Its last audit carried a couple of repeat findings. Most of its money comes from one long-standing donor. When a funder asks a detailed financial question, the answer takes 2 weeks and a lot of spreadsheets thereafter to be able to get that question back to the donor. Now that same funder is deciding between these two organizations. The programs are comparable, but one organization makes the funder feel safe and the other makes them feel exposed. The first gets a 3-year commitment of the full amount of their ask, while the second one gets nothing. It gets maybe a cautious or a fraction of their request, sometimes nothing, sometimes a fraction. The difference in funding over time is enormous, like it really matters. And it had almost nothing to do with the quality of the work. It comes down to which organization had closed the credibility gap and which one actually hadn't. So if this cost is real and it's this large, what do you actually do about it? So you start by making the invisible visible. You can't fix the cost that you can't see. And the whole danger of this one is that it's hidden, it hides it, and it hides really, really a lot. So look honestly at the pattern. The grants that quietly went elsewhere, the awards that came in smaller than you asked for, the 1 year circles, the donor who went quiet, individually, each of these felt like bad luck or a competitive round. Together, they may be telling you something about your organization is being read if you look at it keenly. But the good news is that in the same breath, this is actually a stage. It's not like a sentence. It's not the end. Every one of these costs comes from something structural, and structure is something that can be rebuilt. We've seen organizations moving from looking small to looking solid all at the same time. And when they do, the funding environment around them changes. The first step that I can share with you is simply to find out how you are being read right now. That's what the institutional financial readiness scorecard is for. It shows you where the gaps are before a funder even finds them out for you. And if you want to indulge and take a look at that, I will share the link in the description of this video. And it is free for you to just take it so that you can be able to see where you sit in an organization from all the angles and what is actually invisible to you. Because the most expensive thing your organization can do is keep paying a cost that it actually cannot see. So let's make it visible so you can start closing it month by month. Again, I'm Rosa Dem, and hopefully I see you in the next. So be sure to subscribe so that we continue indulging in this series. Thank you for watching.